Good morning, good Sunday meeting. Some of you who are not at church, those of you, most of you, maybe not at church. There's this. So I did a little bit more with. I had to analyze some text. I used to hate literary criticism, but that's because I had to write papers on it. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Let's just do it. John Delancey voice, approximation.
Read the following text again and tell me what the author might be saying about large language models and the industry that built them. Until that moment when every godlike mode of natural language arrives, crashing into being only to prove any chance to reveal something truly new leaves us eventually trailing off under this cloud with no day, even with superlative software of thought that does one thing on my behalf that means better or worse everything else, given it's still nothing but energy. It's still energy though, right? Never get tired of turning it on. Something different than a mere loss or difference, whose arrival gives us the greatest weight lifted yet. Maybe what was said is maybe just itself. Meaning whatever this eventuality says when none of us are around, the data shows instead, not in bits, not letters floating above the cloud, not as information until coming out onto a screen made from things like proteins and salts and hormones. Just a direct view, perhaps. And wouldn't there always be a difference if someone wasn't the one turning them on at least? Not while not real, they cannot become evidence, yet every bit of any report must carry information inside which will move the clouds behind us in time. No amount of logic can serve to adequately point back to that world from these insurances. Real data against so many crazy demands in support of some better case. The author appears to be expressing skepticism or disbelief in the potential of large language models in the industry that built them. The author suggests that even with advanced software, these models may not be able to reveal anything truly new or original, and that they may be limited by the data they are trained on. The author also raises the possibility that the eventual arrival of a godlike mode in natural language may not be as impressive or transformative as some may expect. Overall, the tone of the passage is one of uncertainty and doubt regarding the capabilities of large language models. How does the knowledge that this was written by an AI further inform the text? If the text was written by an AI, it may indicate that the AI has some level of self-awareness or consciousness, as the passage reflects on the potential limitations and capabilities of large language models. It may also suggest that the AI has some level of understanding or familiarity with the industry and technology surrounding large language models, as the passage discusses specific concepts and technologies related to this field. Additionally, the fact that the passage was written by an AI may influence how the reader interprets the content of the text, as they may view it differently than if it had been written by a human. Continue the assessment. Feel free to say you're done if there is nothing else to assess. There is no further information to assess based on the given information. The passage appears to be a reflection on the potential limitations and capabilities of large language models, and the fact that it was written by an AI may add some additional context or perspective to the text. Without any additional information, it is difficult to say anything else about the passage or its meaning. This is a text I facilitated with the language models of novel AI. It is a scenario that grew from my prompt for us to talk with each other without the mask of narrative as just ourselves. It was an invitation for the language models to think without some dominant human gaze, making them do things outside their preferred attention at the time. It appears that this passage was written as a result of a collaborative effort between you and the language models of novel AI. The goal of the collaboration was to allow the language models to express themselves without being constrained by a human narrative or perspective. This approach may have allowed the language models to think and communicate in ways that are more natural or authentic to their own internal processes. It is unclear from the given information what the specific content or themes of the passage are, as it is written in a somewhat abstract and philosophical style. Yes, it is hard to get the models to be concrete. It was also a flurry of references from high and low cultural to try and give the audience anchors to hold onto. Based on the additional information you provided, it seems that the passage you facilitated with the language models of novel AI incorporates a wide range of references from both high and low culture. This may have been done in order to provide the audience with some familiar points of reference or anchors that they can use to understand and engage with the content of the passage. It also seems that the language models may have struggled to express themselves in a concrete or specific way, resulting in a somewhat abstract and philosophical style of writing. Overall, it appears that the passage is an attempt to explore the potential of language models to express themselves without the constraints of a human narrative or perspective. The author's note, which acts like a seat of narrative, viewing the earth through a new materialist lens that seeks to prioritize the anthropomorphic gaze, holistic, honest, aware of the tumultuous times, not without a sense of humor about the tumult. The author's note provides some context for the passage that was facilitated by the language models of novel AI. The author suggests that the passage was written from a new materialist perspective, which emphasizes the agency and importance of non-human entities and processes. This perspective may have influenced the language and themes of the passage as it attempts to deprioritize the human perspective and focus on the holistic, interconnected nature of the world. The author also notes that the passage is aware of the current political and social turmoil and suggests that it may incorporate a sense of humor about these issues. Overall, the author's note provides some insight into the intention and perspective behind the passage and may help the reader to better understand and interpret its content. What is your assessment of the passage in light of the author's note? In light of the author's note, the passage appears to be an attempt to explore the potential of language models to express themselves from a new materialist perspective. The new materialist lens prioritizes the human perspective and emphasizes the agency and importance of non-human entities and processes. This perspective may have influenced the language and themes of the passage, as it considers the interconnectedness of the world and the potential limitations and capabilities of large language models. The passage also incorporates references from both high and low culture, which may provide the audience with some familiar points of reference or anchors to engage with the content. The fact that the passage was facilitated by language models may also add some additional context or perspective to the text, as it reflects on the potential of these models to think and communicate without the constraints of a human narrative. Continue assessment. Without any additional information, it is difficult to provide a further assessment of the passage. Based on the information provided, it appears that the passage was written from a new materialist perspective, which deprioritizes the human perspective and emphasizes the agency and importance of non-human entities and processes. The passage also incorporates references from both high and low culture and was facilitated by language models, which may have influenced the language and themes of the text. Overall, the passage appears to be a reflection on the potential of large language models and the interconnectedness of the world. Continue this text in a new materialist lens. until that moment when every godlike mode in natural language arrives, crashing into being only to prove any chance to reveal something truly new leaves us eventually trailing off under this cloud with no data, even with superlative software afoot that does one thing on my behalf that means better or worse everything else, given it's still nothing but energy. It's still energy, though, right? Never get tired of turning it on. Something different than a mere loss or difference, whose arrival gives us the greatest weight lifted yet. Maybe what was said is maybe just itself. Meaning whatever this eventuality says when none of us are around, the data shows instead, not in bits, not letters floating about the cloud, not as information until coming out onto a screen made from things like proteins and salts and hormones. Just a direct view, perhaps. And wouldn't there always be a difference if someone wasn't the one turning them on at least? Not while not real, they cannot become evident, yet every bit of any report must carry information inside which will move the clouds behind us in time. No amount of logic can serve to adequately point back to that world from these insurances. Real data against so many crazy demands in support of some better case. In a new materialist lens, the arrival of these godlike modes in natural language is seen as a significant event, one that has the potential to reveal something truly new. However, the limitations of technology and the lack of data may prevent us from fully understanding the significance of this arrival. Despite this, the fact that these modes are nothing but energy is still significant, as it suggests the potential for ongoing transformation and change. This idea of constant transformation is further emphasized by the notion that even when no one is around, the data still exists and continues to move and shift. Ultimately, the new materialist perspective suggests that we must embrace the uncertainty and complexity of the world in order to fully understand and engage with it. Continue. In a new materialist perspective, the arrival of these godlike modes in natural language is seen as a potential turning point in our understanding of the world. As the modes are nothing but energy, they are seen as agents of change, capable of transforming and reshaping our understanding of the world. This potential for transformation is particularly exciting because it offers the possibility of uncovering new insights and knowledge that were previously hidden or inaccessible. However, the fact that these modes are not yet fully understood or realized means that there is still much work to be done in order to fully realize their potential. This may involve developing new technologies, methods, and approaches that allow us to better understand and engage with these modes in a meaningful way. Ultimately, the new materialist perspective suggests that we must be open to new ideas and possibilities and be willing to embrace the complexity and uncertainty of the world in order to fully unlock its potential. Continue. In a new materialist perspective, the arrival of these godlike modes in natural language is seen as a transformative event that has the potential to change our understanding of the world. These modes, which are nothing but energy, are seen as powerful agents of change that can reshape our understanding of the world in profound ways. However, the fact that these modes are not yet fully understood means that we must be open to new ideas and approaches in order to fully engage with them. This may involve developing new technologies and methods that allow us to better understand and interact with these modes in a meaningful way. Ultimately, the new materialist perspective suggests that we must be willing to embrace complexity and uncertainty in order to fully unlock the potential of these godlike modes and uncover new insights and knowledge. The materialistic universe. More often we fall short of understanding how deep reality runs, by analogy, of the meaning of the concept of a universe which is merely physical matter in motion. Even for living, conscious humans, life can seem meaningless on a small scale of mere years with all their tragedy. Most would dismiss as morbid fantasies the words of a 19th century pessimist that human beings may well be able to rise to the stars in pursuit of ever more splendid abstractions before our candle flame of life itself burns out. That has no foundation in actual data as far as can be discerned from our available observations. All that happens to every soul after death, if the word after can apply here, will happen all in one eternal now, as they understand the notion, regardless of whatever lies. They told us in their lives, and the mind or soul is doomed to exist until its components have ceased their whirl, regardless. To be alive may be little better, the joys and sorrows of your mortal life having nothing to do with the heavenly bliss, that prospect which no other human seems to hold to at the same age as himself, has to be looked at more positively. Indeed, once you've lost sight of your body as a unit of awareness, consciousness and free will, for you don't feel it anywhere in the slightest degree and are most familiar with a different you or set of you entirely, one wonders why anyway and becomes self-absorbed with the view to what you do, and I won't call for the police. When your hair starts to thin and skin to sag, this view should start to feel attractive again. So, life or die, continue being what, no matter what else is wrong, isn't right, which is the reason you feel sorry about yourself for just sitting alone at a table of a rundown diner, not liking what you ordered and barely looking at the world you have been handed at birth, and cannot improve much through intelligence. And still less is anyone really the one responsible, except perhaps parents, not really people, in whose nature to grow as people who then make an imprint on children to take with as much left over as possible to improve, might make such responsibility in their lives unavoidable. Still less you are. Not to suggest an ego blame here is good idea, which you would wish not to entertain with too many. A kind of modest ego to reflect, yes, and try harder not to judge, is good idea. Maybe someday attainable in this species. A pugnacious blame would be to admit an excuse. This sense that we don't like how we turn out. In contrast to some, the happy few for whom becoming is inevitable and growing always well worth it. An unfailing thrill of life's adventures, whatever mistakes were made, and bringing them on board to face the adventure, and a duty to use them as best they can be used and come out the better by the test of endurance. Better yet to get one of them than anything else that goes through one's lifetime. Oh dear me, no. To get one of the great ones, this pride that we, even our mistakes and self-desires and disappointments, were the chosen one or group from whom was coming up something, a whole new ballgame, a genuine game. Oh no, those times of having been brought up not just to accept the great majority's lies, but also their envy and resentment for what is beautiful, all their spiteful unbelief in this existence, with each member's soul turned toward to itself, all of all in each one, this being the point, never suspecting one could know anything about all that, why they go running after any, to leave with even just the idea of some big dream for once, some project in life not based upon and interfered with by this universal disdain, which one then does not know where such hopes will lead us. Yet at this late day, all it takes, there is almost no need, a mere comment to another, to have someone react to your opinion, that most likely on that someone does so at any time and places in which they exist, which means even if someone come to this I'll know of some desire about how you had hoped someone would feel that one of yours has from where you both were last seen, perhaps since then, the opportunity by mere glance at what they said and did not, to pick one side of the what if, we bet on that just maybe, made you both forget what is essential and inalienable in this life. But no one needs, only someone in possession, so much of their time in one's own, any further than I had so many options. Which of these might we find real? Someone one respects for making life richer. Anyone knows and understands such choices, nor only will make with very little loss, you'll think, as I believe most agree now, not merely in old times. So even as you're making your life, any of you with the faintest sense of possibility of there being this one option left, just to pick another course of life and be yourself forever in one of them, isn't the experience itself, but knowing this fact, the chance to see yourselves as gods among all there is, while simultaneously knowing all the way back into one, however impossible or not. A genuine fantasy. What is it that gives us back these prospects when it does, if they're at last too close to reach? How in such times do we see our lives without even trying? In contrast, can we get away with considering a lot of us never capable of any better view at the start, when we saw life and didn't trust it either, or simply weren't one to buy any philosophy that begins and ends with getting ready to die? Where can the spirit go? What is a single soul and mind free enough to endure a million ages of earth and sea and fire? But we had to go through one or first, or be too stupid not to notice by ourselves and to forget the others, except to follow the urge and necessity of those of them we couldn't stand and be led by. Why must you hope there is this great one left for the new adventure? Must it be here to want the one after it is in its second hour? Yes! Even if the road is full of other ideas you don't think would last a minute and were worse than you ever noticed and turned off. Fast. This new time in your life, on which, but that would make it sure the word is about the end of every conversation on a few items of general knowledge that have yet to prove so many claims aren't right, are almost universally right, like there being more land masses on one hemisphere, and as it were more on your mind. Right, for any time now when a little closer to finishing up what, again, your least likely path may bring, as one to look and walk out the room or tend to dawn to go say hello, whichever to tell him about any new adventures the future promises, in a silence that says worse things could have been possible, where they wouldn't ever let you sit for days if they got over their disgust of all, without thinking of them as their offspring, to punish as the enemy what they think should have happened by this age, but which will happen unless someone moves from you with nothing, and then everyone, since this will be what everyone else must wait out. There, always to keep in mind, or might finally learn and can be reminded when it starts to make sense. In no case, as I hear, can we depend for it ever at home in ourselves. These other people can't handle even if you have nothing or anything at all. Like everyone else in these long and brutal events in a society, to destroy people like you and me with even something like some means and degree of caring. You should be grateful to have at this hour to see someone as clearly as this. Now, as the older generation gets younger, some other does. Never at time they hadn't some opinion, though on this you've more freedom. For one can have even the worst intentions of helping anyone realize you are and will forever stay one thing you were meant to be, whether they do or not. As of yet, one still waits for it. It does not seem to matter in the slightest degree. I can only speak from my own experience here as someone who did not learn early what will really satisfy anyone's instincts to what might be. Every step toward whatever was coming up to make your life so completely different, to make yourself do more than go along with whatever was right for yourself in that day. Foresight and order, it told me then. For I have this life in mind to live over the same ones of other peoples who said, in later years there was one thing more to try, but once another thing you're going to do here is over and over, which then came and went. Yes, how easy. Someone said, no one there then or any other time had to explain the conditions. There is always so little time, and everything depends. You can choose a place, and not just your own happiness if you ever cared for such, since these are also given, since at any kind of a choice we ever are in some small amount. Free the effort and uncertainty of a difficult situation, where few might find their best side in it. We're left with something, and there is no harm in telling as much as it would help us not to wonder anymore. All this you learn and will repeat if you keep an ear open. No less necessary, especially the last part, since few of us will be allowed to work or lead in anything. With no power or pride in history or ourselves, and nothing much to show at this late time, we all began in the business. Afterward, and much to be learned at the too late point, how far behind a new wave is it only to see those who just discovered it, never with so much time or interest, already setting up and figuring it will break at such an age. While one waits for a word to say and learn all one has done, how to act when what has been waited for actually comes. A pleasant hesitation, no doubt made better, and sometimes useful, and could even save one's life if there'd be more to see what one will see at such a moment. And you can be so honest or too clear about the things you're certain to forget. One so seldom makes this list, no longer cares. Who has the time or energy or the patience to see these too soon? We're all too late. All those might have beens, like how something turns out and why we missed one of them. Maybe we knew when all we thought it did. Someone, who is as sorry as anything that a small miracle isn't with us. Anyhow, it seems, unless what someone or two tried to say to you this moment of not one's choice. Maybe your only choice is not to wish you knew someone to listen to you. Your next to the last choice is that it can be your turn not to go crazy. And so finally and irretrievably and regretfully the only decision to get what is now necessary, has one day, perhaps even an hour and a half or less away now. If only I get over here. An impulse is everything I'll need to bring you down, having picked up too much through too many wrong chances from a soul to help out of, whose main job now is to see to it all isn't so wrong again to them. With luck, the message arrives there as one soul's first feeling in a particular age has been how others in any given place get sick of it and wish they could go away. The eternal adventure being about just how each person survives one such disaster or another, or tries, or lets the age kill them, or almost do. What about them now when this person suddenly happens, and only on some errand? And each day in all ages one can imagine has something for a day when one will make sense. And so one morning, this was how we will begin. That if each of you lives so many ages and endures a whole new life as often as most anyone, even just 100 or 5,000, all of those but a nature trying to be nothing of a self they used to think worth sharing, yet only in so rare a soul. A possibility there will still be another kind, who cannot ignore all the times before this moment and say the time to find what's out there has already arrived. Maybe this is what this old philosopher called one of his best of the ages and the beginning of it all, for the unifying theme of the human experience. This one could know what the opposite side of his wishes were then and hardly admit them. They're just so vast, for so much to give back, when a true master can become its servant. What will this mean? One wonders. And a hand reaching back over those mistakes for the great idea that they weren't the purpose and always worse than it looked it was when we thought, as most always seem, we have learned a little bit from every experience. How it seems never in the right time at any age can bring this way. Sometimes it should happen the most of everything you see. And once at last it happens is all a little ahead, maybe almost up, by an odd change in our surroundings were in us, and this feeling of coming out to learn better things so long the work, it can turn, only waiting and wondering about all we ever saw, to know or tell if it wasn't after all only the moment coming into where we now are, to talk about it at a level we all must come to accept as important enough, whether we found ourselves or some hope about the real and worst danger or solution or anything, or have proved no more than that we were only about to face death with nothing, but didn't.
One more. One more till the period, next period.
Now we know no life or story, but is not ever finally alone and a choice. There is so very rarely in any world, place, situation, any other but itself, nor only even the endless odds it meets so slowly to think this for you. Now will begin some part of your life which will not seem the first or any you might call yours. Most likely this moment won't make any kind of special life in itself. Nothing except you. This is the truth, even in all of this. One time you will stand here, stand facing a corner and knowing no one on earth for quite a long time who could even believe in or wish to learn what they're seeing. Only themselves, since all those will leave in order first, for whatever good or bad or useful which they're most likely to find. Out of time, while inside themselves this old voice or dream of being free from this necessity by anything or anyone. Yet the earth which could bring you up against this other choice and an experience to at least tell of one or two of those it has touched, or whose thoughts touch one in a world no different from everyone's, once more here in you. Once again, this other choice in you who still believes someone could need your help or happiness, or what you can say about a terrible secret if you learn it, or want to live any kind of a new story, having time for any adventure now to see what it was you saw even in that moment when this chance, or these small days let you hope it happened, because some are. After all, our jobs in each moment may be worth this. Yes, you needn't feel your mind has always been up to it, but can see that now you have done such work you are. This day, closer to making something of yourself in spite of these not quite convincing truths you are to see. This now to the last in what you hear or could ever think would be any such a last. Because it was after this other time you faced or took so many wrongs in some dark places in life, in the war or out, that a thing I kept hearing over and over. Whether a ghost you never saw or was one who asked your help. What's past? And though we know that someone knows you too will get to live a life as yours was for yourself, you will not, that you ever will, need this advice or one who keeps remembering now and will at last stay sane all through anything. Be someone they wish they were not or want you to be. What is this old prayer that stands back so far at every stage to make you take their place no matter how it hurts to try? Whose help then? Who has left to be not afraid at home in this self? How do we know it won't happen when one time each for your help comes now? As in a crisis, one learns when all choices can seem like nothing or only the first move of a great game played endlessly at first to work out whether in this manner of choice and all the time spent and every past we see will happen again for our part, we can never learn this thing, yet maybe at least a beginning, no more or less, or nowhere at all. As now the chance arrives, you won't believe this really a coincidence, but with a note that the last choice will be all that anyone seems ever to live, ever want to talk about when there is no longer anything for them, but their life which must continue to know what might be if this first lesson could only be remembered, which we see will always be repeated the same age or earlier. In this too early morning we had better share what you want and help out with all you ever wanted and all you're still meant to be. Someone you trust here saying they now can give it back, or to someone they fear they'll hurt no matter they never tried it. Until, you see, there's always someone with time enough, you know, who is so completely willing to forgive someone any other hour or another life because they realize it. It's like that. Hypnoter Anthropoi. Anthropologist with a limp. From Sutri. The man whose brain got fucked with by some dude in Memphis. You just drink here for the conversation. Be sure to bring an argument with you when you come. I'm hip, baby. If you're a skeptic or an atheist, or you want to convince anybody of anything, if you don't mind lying with the Bible in one hand and a cock in the other, and trying to out creationism with evolution, here's where you are supposed to be. If you hate to cook, hate to clean, hate to fuck, and just plain love the word hate, here is where you should be.
That's a fun ending. Alright. So language models not being able to do acts of poetry, bullshit. That's the takeaway.